Hi, I'm Megan. I'm a PhD student from the University of Alberta, and I'm going to talk today about my dissertation research, which is tentatively called Click Here for Body Stories, Employing Literary Hypertext as a Form of Illness Narrative for Women with Hyperandrogenism. So, in The Wounded Storyteller, Arthur Frank wrote that major illness has the potential to disrupt the planned destination of our life, and that through the practice of illness narrative, we're able to reclaim the telling of our stories. Scholarship on illness narratives, or autobiographical accounts of the experience of illness, show that they're especially transformative for marginalized groups as an accessible way to bring agency and voice to the body. Hyperandrogenism, for anyone who isn't familiar, is a medical condition characterized by excessive levels of male hormones, such as testosterone, which, when identified in the female body, are associated with masculinizing symptoms like excess body and facial hair, male pattern baldness, infertility, elevated sex drive, increased muscle mass, and absence of menstrual bleeding. So hyperandrogenism has been weaponized as a justification to call into question which bodily signifiers and hormonal nuances quantify biological sex. So, for example, you might be familiar with the ongoing battle between South African track star Caster Semenya and the International Association of Athletics Federations. So after her 2016 Olympic gold medal, Semenya was mandated by the IAAF to undergo a sex verification test. The test indicated that Semenya had elevated testosterone, and the results were made public. So from there, the IAAF mandated that Semenya had to pharmaceutically lower her natural testosterone in order to compete in the women's category of her sport, a decision that she's actively trying to reverse. And just for context, the IAAF has never mandated men to pharmaceutically lower their natural testosterone. So medical literature describes that the aesthetic symptoms of hyperandrogenism are actually benign. Yet in clinical practice, some women diagnosed with hyperandrogenism are prescribed anti-androgens, or else they're advised on cosmetic solutions, including laser hair removal, medication for male pattern hair loss, such as Rogaine, and bleaching creams to restore feminine embodiment. And the research I did in my MA was around identifying how some women with hyperandrogenism, because of their experiences of perceived subjugation in the medical encounter, were turning to online health forums to write about their experiences. So in these online forums, these women were becoming experts on their diseases and then sharing their expertise with other women. They were rehearsing speeches to recite to doctors in order to be prescribed certain medications, and they were writing and sharing poetry and personal stories. So from there, the question for me became, what's next for digital illness narratives? So my project now, I'm going to just go back one slide, go to slide 4. So right now my project is turning towards the intersection of health and digital humanities, and I'm questioning what the future of illness narratives may look like. So the kinds of questions I'm asking are, what kinds of platforms or digital tools might be used to hone in on the therapeutic aspects of the online health blog, for example, or how can digital tools be used in ways that are effective for subjugated women to write a path to health empowerment. But ultimately, my project considers how we might code health liberation into the digital through literary hypertext technology. And literary hypertext is a form of rhizomatic digital story writing that calls on readers to participate in the narrative's unfolding by selecting different hyperlinks. So literary hypertext can take different forms, but a lot of what exists on the internet can be described as a sort of cross between a story and a video game, with a choose your own adventure style slant. So just to give a little insight into how dynamic literary hypertext can be, I'm going to show some screenshots here of a couple story games that I love. So here is a screenshot from a game called Queers in Love at the End of the World. So as the reader, you have 10 seconds to choose how you want to interact with your lover before the whole world is wiped away. So this is ultimately and predominantly a textual-based story, but literary hypertext can incorporate visual experiences as well. So here are some screenshots from a game called Incubus. And this is created by an amazing artist from the UK named Christine Wilkes that I'm working with on another project. But Incubus is a 3D immersive fiction where you play as a mostly unseen teenage girl. So you, as the reader player, navigate a childhood bedroom before you plunge into this sort of disorienting space that looks like the fleshy inside canals of a body. So in your quest through these canals, you have to sort of shoot down fragments of cyberbullying text with these balls of light. So Incubus questions what it means to be a girl coming of age in digital culture and dealing with notions of the feminine ideal. So literary hypertext has been taken up in scholarship as a mostly fiction-based medium, but the literature shows that this medium has so much potential as a therapeutic tool for body-based concerns because of its ability to make these unique connections between ideas, and it encourages integrative thought and it supports collaborative learning. But I think the real magic of literary hypertext is the ability to write your own story. So you can actually do this with a software called Twine. So Twine is one platform for writing literary hypertext, and it's a freely accessible and open source tool, and it allows people to create literary hypertext stories in their browser with no coding knowledge, and they can publish their stories directly to HTML. So Twine was actually developed by an interactive fiction author named Chris Klimas in 2009. And the ultimate intention was for him to develop the software was to reduce barriers to entry for game creators of marginalized identities. So Twine has been, it's come to be described by scholars as a predominantly queer and women-dominated community. So there's some scholarship on Twine and literary hypertext, but it's concentrated in this discipline of game studies. So there's limited research on the potential for literary hypertext as a therapeutic tool for writing illness narratives. So in the research that I'm conducting, I'm evaluating, what value a nonlinear digital story writing tool such as Twine holds as an avenue for women with gendered illness, such as hyperandrogenism, to write their body and their experiential-based narrative. So I'm currently in the participant recruitment phase of the research, and I'm recruiting 10 participants who self-identify as having hyperandrogenism. And they're going to complete a 2-hour module that's going to include a Twine writing tutorial. And then they're going to be asked to submit the Twine stories that they create. And they'll be using a writing prompt, and a writing prompt that goes, describe what it feels like to live in a body with hyperandrogenism. So here is my recruitment poster, which I'm going to share in case anyone's interested. I'm still recruiting participants, and that's it. So thank you so much for listening.